Friends, now Gen Z protests are happening in Mexico as well. In many countries around the world these days, youth-led protests have almost become a trend. We saw how many countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, the Philippines, Madagascar, etc. recently came under the grip of Gen Z protests. Now Mexico has become the latest victim of this wave of youth-led protests. Here too, the same pattern exists. Youth-led protests organized through social media. Frustrated by the violence and corruption happening in the country, thousands of people from various cities of Mexico came out onto the streets. They were angry at the government's inaction. According to them, the Mexican government has proved to be unsuccessful in stopping corruption and cartel violence in the country. Cartels are openly committing extortion in the country, and anyone who raises their voice against them is eliminated. Recently, the mayor of Uruapan, the avocado capital of Mexico, was assassinated. Uruapan's mayor, Carlos Alberto Manzo Rodriguez, was publicly assassinated during the celebrations of a festival. Manzo used to raise his voice against extortion. He wanted to end organized crime in the country. He demanded strict action against criminal groups and called out the government's lenient security policies. He also continuously demanded more funds from the government for anti-crime efforts. Despite all the threats, he did not back down and stood firm, because of which he had gained a cult following in Mexico. His assassination triggered public anger. Manzo's popularity can be understood from the fact that thousands of people gathered at his funeral. Since he used to openly criticize the government, the protesters held the Mexican government responsible for his assassination. Protests began to take place across the country. Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, was asked to resign, and there were demands to remove her Morena party from power. Because according to the protesters, Sheinbaum hasn't been able to stop corruption and violence in the country. However, according to President Sheinbaum, Gen Z protests in Mexico have been manufactured. According to her, there is foreign involvement in this. Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina had also said something similar during the protests in her own country. Claudia Sheinbaum too is hinting at foreign interference. According to her, corruption and drug-related violence are being made into issues to attempt a regime change in Mexico. On the other hand, the protesters believe that the Mexican government has failed to protect not just ordinary people but even local leaders from organized crime. In recent times, many mayors have been assassinated one after another, and the government could do nothing. Cartels are eliminating public officials with such ease. So these high-profile assassinations are leading to public outrage. People were already filled with anger, and Manzo's assassination triggered a movement. 2 weeks after his assassination, Gen Z protests started inside Mexico. People raised their voices against unchecked violence and demanded a change of government. Using social media platforms, these protests were organized in a highly coordinated manner, which is typical of recent Gen Z protests. The same pattern was seen in other places as well. Deep-rooted, systemic failures were highlighted on social media, and a movement was organized. Because of deep-seated anger, people kept joining in, and in large numbers they came onto the streets with their grievances. There will be one specific issue. People will get frustrated by the government's inaction on that issue, and they will protest and demand regime change. This has now become a pattern. In countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, and Madagascar, protesters even succeeded in toppling the respective regimes. Speaking of Mexico, pressure is being built on President Sheinbaum. She will have to address Mexico's crisis of criminal violence as soon as possible. People in Mexico are troubled by economic inequality, corruption, and crime. They expect more accountability from their leaders. They want better governance and strong democratic institutions. And most importantly, they want strong measures against the cartels. Mexico's current president, Claudia Sheinbaum, came to power last year. Her philosophy is such that she does not prefer aggressive military deployments. She does not want troops to be sent onto the streets to eliminate the cartels. Instead, she prefers dealing with crime through intelligence gathering and investigations. She does not believe in more bloodshed and follows a restrained approach. But according to the protesters, it is because of this restraint that violence in the country is not being controlled. Instability fueled by cartels in Mexico is not a new thing, but it is the responsibility of the government to address this chaos. The rise in violence indicates the failure of the government. Because of this, the Gen Z revolt is being witnessed. To restore normalcy in the country, President Sheinbaum will have to recalibrate her security strategy.